Dry fasting is one of those practices that hides in plain sight, whispered about in ancient scriptures and rituals. Dismissed by modern health authorities as dangerous, and yet quietly experimented with by seekers who want to push the body beyond its ordinary limits. The very idea of not eating or drinking for hours, sometimes even days, carries both allure and fear. It sounds extreme, and it is, because when you deny the body both food and water, you are stepping into a space where survival instincts are triggered, and where biology is forced to adapt in unusual ways. For the biohacker, this is not just a fast, but a controlled confrontation with mortality, an experiment in hacking human limits, and a glimpse into what some call God mode, the heightened state where body, mind, and spirit fuse into raw intensity. The word fasting has been normalized. Everyone has heard of intermittent fasting, juice fasting, or water fasting. But dry fasting is different because it is absolute. No food, no water. It is the practice of silence for the body. The body is denied its most basic need, and in that denial something primal is awakened. Ancient mystics saw dry fasting as a purification ritual. Some cultures considered it a rite of death and rebirth. For the modern biohacker, the lens is different, but the hunger is the same. They want the altered state, the chemical rewiring, the sensation of the body breaking its own rules. When you dry fast, the body does not have water to rely on, so it begins to break down fat more aggressively. Cells are forced into autophagy, the process of recycling damaged components. In theory, this cellular cleansing is far deeper and faster than an ordinary fasting. But the experience is not only biological. There is a psychological shift. Hunger can be tolerated. Thirst, however, cuts deeper. Thirst is primal. Denying it transforms the way you feel reality itself. Every drop of saliva, every thought of water becomes magnified. And within that magnification, awareness sharpens. For some it feels like agony. For others it feels like a key that unlocks intensity they never knew existed. Biohackers chase intensity. They measure brainwaves, track heart rate variability, experiment with nootropics, test cold plunges, heat shock, and sleep deprivation. Dry fasting is the next frontier because it merges biology with metaphysics. You are not just tweaking neurotransmitters. You are placing your entire existence under pressure. This pressure is what some describe as God mode. It is the state where distractions vanish, where survival instinct overrides laziness, where clarity strikes like lightning. A man who has not had water for 24 hours is not thinking about Netflix or gossip. He is thinking about existence itself. He is face to face with raw being. It is no accident that ancient prophets, shamans, and desert mystics practiced abstinence from both food and water. Whether intentional or circumstantial, the dry desert became a crucible for spiritual awakening. They returned from these fasts with visions, revelations, and a sense of having touched the eternal. In a modern context, one can say these were early biohackers. They did not have gadgets or supplements, but they had the will to experiment with their biology. They hacked consciousness with nothing but discipline. And in that hacking, they glimpsed dimensions beyond ordinary perception. The attraction of dry fasting for the biohacker is also rooted in the idea of efficiency. Water fasting forces the body to cleanse itself, but dry fasting is thought to accelerate that process. Some claim that 1 day of dry fasting equals 3 days of water fasting in terms of detoxification. Whether or not these numbers are accurate is up for debate, but the belief fuels experimentation, and experimentation is the essence of biohacking. To the biohacker, risk is not something to be avoided at all costs. Risk is a catalyst. They want to know what lies on the other side of discomfort. When you deny yourself water, the body produces metabolic water. This is water generated internally by breaking down fat. In survival situations, camels, desert rodents, and even humans tap into this mechanism. For the biohacker, this is proof that the body holds secrets not fully understood. If fat can be turned into water, then dry fasting is not pure deprivation. It is a trigger that activates hidden pathways. You become an alchemist of your own biology, transmuting stored energy into life itself. That is why some describe it as a form of internal combustion, a burning that refines the self. Of course, Not everyone sees dry fasting in mystical or heroic terms. For medical professionals, the dangers are obvious. Dehydration can cause electrolyte imbalance, kidney strain, dizziness, and in extreme cases, serious health consequences. These risks are real and cannot be ignored. But risk has always been part of human exploration. Mountain climbing, deep-sea diving, psychedelic experimentation, martial arts. None of these are safe, yet people pursue them for the reward of transformation. Dry fasting falls into that category. It is not a lifestyle, but a challenge, a deliberate plunge into extremity. What happens mentally during dry fasting is as fascinating as the biological effects. The first few hours feel like ordinary fasting. Hunger comes and goes, but as thirst grows, thoughts narrow. You stop thinking about trivial matters. Water becomes the obsession. And yet if you resist, something strange occurs. The mind quiets down. You stop wasting energy on scattered thoughts. The thirst carves away distraction. In that silence, creativity can surge. Vision becomes sharper. Time feels heavier. It is as if you are living in a slowed-down film where every second matters. This is God mode. Not in the sense of invincibility, but in the sense of heightened being. You are more alive because you are closer to the edge. For some, this edge brings euphoria. For others, it brings confrontation with inner demons. Dry fasting is not just biological stress. It is psychological exposure. There is no food or drink to comfort you, no escape from your thoughts. In this void, suppressed emotions surface. Some see visions. Others feel waves of despair, followed by sudden bursts of energy. It is unpredictable, and that is exactly why biohackers are drawn to it. Predictability is the enemy of growth. Chaos is the breeding ground of transformation. Society tells us to drink 8 glasses of water a day, to stay hydrated at all times, to fear thirst as if it were poison. Dry fasting flips this script. It says, what if thirst is not always the enemy? What if it is a teacher? What if deprivation reveals abundance? By reframing thirst, dry fasting becomes a philosophical act as much as a biological one. It challenges assumptions about what the human body actually needs. It asks the question, are we truly fragile, or are we far more resilient than we are told? When a biohacker attempts dry fasting, he is not just skipping water, he is making a statement. He is saying, I will not be ruled by comfort. I will not let my body dictate the terms of my mind. I will push until I see what is hidden beneath the surface. And if he succeeds, even briefly, he returns with a new sense of power. Power not over others, but over himself. Power born of discipline. Power born of silence. And yet this practice is not for everyone. It is not to be romanticized recklessly. Dry fasting is a razor's edge. Walk it without preparation, and you will fall. Walk it with respect, and you may glimpse something extraordinary. The mystics called it communion with the divine. The modern biohacker calls it God mode. The name is irrelevant. What matters is the experience. The way your body burns, the way your mind clears, the way your spirit surges. This is the path that few dare to walk, but those who do rarely forget. Dry fasting is less about food and water and more about control. Control of desire, control of fear, control of the instinct to escape discomfort at all costs. In a culture addicted to excess, where water bottles are always in hand and snacks are always within reach, denying yourself both food and water is a radical act. It is rebellion against abundance. It is voluntary suffering. And through voluntary suffering, a strange liberation arises. You are no longer a slave to urges. You are master of your hunger, master of your thirst, master of yourself. For the biohacker, that mastery is the ultimate prize. Gadgets can track progress. Supplements can enhance chemistry, but nothing compares to the raw power of self-denial. Dry fasting strips away the illusion of control and replaces it with actual control. When you can sit and thirst and not break, you know that you are stronger than your cravings. That knowledge cannot be bought. It must be earned in silence. There is a danger in glorifying dry fasting, as if it were the answer to all problems. It is not. It is simply one path among many, but it is a path that exposes truth, shows the thin line between strength and weakness, between clarity and collapse. It is a reminder that life itself is fragile and yet resilient. And it is a reminder that sometimes, to touch the divine, you must first walk through the desert within yourself. In the end, dry fasting is not about water. It is about will. It is about facing the body's screams and choosing to listen to the whisper behind them. That whisper is ancient. It is the same whisper that guided prophets, shamans, monks, and mystics. It says that the human being is more than flesh, more than thirst, more than survival. It says that there is God mode waiting for those who dare to walk the razor's edge of deprivation. And though it is not safe, though it is not for everyone, it remains one of the most powerful biohacks ever known, because of science alone, but because of the way it forces you to confront yourself. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a medical professional. Dry fasting can be risky and is not suitable for everyone. If you are considering it, always consult a qualified healthcare provider and approach the practice with caution and respect.